I've told people who listen to Drive Time there's only one lefty I allow because the man speaks more sense than anybody I know. Matthew Torbitt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeff.
You, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, sat in that chair and said to me, when we talked about the pensioners' U-turn and we talked about so much, you just said they don't get ahead of the game, they call it wrong, it's U-turn after U-turn. I fervently believe you said that Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer will not be long for this life. I think that we've talked about nothing more than the grooming gang scandal since Monday because that's what the listeners have wanted to respond to. I think it's the biggest national disgrace. I think it stains us. I think it embarrasses us. I think if it goes as deep and as high as people fear, I hope to God politicians don't think a whitewash is good enough because I don't think the British people will stomach it. But I want to start by asking you something else. How did a man become Prime Minister who doesn't even have, forget political nous, the normal intelligence to go, geez, that is repugnant? Because now every single person, and maybe you can say on the right, but I suspect across this country is going to go, what, you traded the Muslim vote for the Labour Party, and what was it somebody said to me yesterday? You traded 8-year-old white girls and their long-term security on the altar of the ideology of multiculturalism. I think that's a fantastic phrase. I really do. I think
Keir Starmer's always shown he's got sort of quite poor political judgment. If you're just going to look purely at the politics of this, I think to come straight in as an MP and demand a second referendum and totally not realising the state of the country and the fact that if you were to ignore 17.5 million people, that's just going to go absolutely fine, you know, and whatever else. The only thing I ever seem to remember him calling right and going, oh, that was quite clever, is I think during COVID he said, oh, we should have a... what was it called? He wanted a break or something. And I said, oh, he's got ahead of the government. And I was genuinely surprised. I thought, that's quite clever politics. Well done. I think since then, sort of Premiership onwards has shown that his judgment is bad. And I think 6 months ago when this all came about, again, because in a way, really, because of Elon Musk, because it's all well and good, you know. The thing that's knocked me a bit sick is both sides going, yeah, but we're now doing the inquiry. What did you do?
I'm not sticking up for the Tories, by the way, in any which way.
I know you're not, but this is the
problem. All of them.
The idea that some of these people care about working class white girls and ever have is everybody had forgotten about it. Everybody had left it until very, very recently. And for whatever reason Elon Musk has done it or who's fed it him, regardless, it turned out hopefully to be a good thing. I think the problem with a national inquiry is the fact that you're going to have about 800 cold cases and it's going to be very hard to get justice for some of these people. That's the sad thing, because...
Do you think heads will roll? Do you think it'll be a whitewash? Because I don't think the British people will stomach it.
Well, no, they'll have to.
The Prime Minister's what, going to pick who runs it?
I don't know how he's going to... I think they're still figuring out the framework, and I don't think that's because it's going to be... I do think it isn't going to be somewhat of a whitewash. I think out of everybody, and Maggie Oliver said the same when I saw her on Monday.
She was on the show.
Baroness Casey, she met with Baroness Casey twice earlier in the year, she said, and she had no faith in any government, doesn't matter, you know, Labour, Tory, whatever, that anybody was going to ever do anything, and Baroness Casey impressed her. And having met Baroness Casey a few times, she's a force of nature that won't take any prisoners and has been quite explicit about that.
Did you not find it most frightening about Baroness Casey? We were talking about this earlier. She said, I don't know where people have been. I didn't even barely scratch the surface rather than dig with my nails, and I found stuff that's completely repugnant and repellent. You're a northern lad. I spent 15 years up there. People have talked about this for a long time. You haven't got kids, but we talk about your dad, relevant. We talk about the northern way of being. For me to listen to Yvette Cooper admit that the majority, and I'm quoting her, I'm not being racist, of perpetrators were British, Pakistani men or Muslims, and also a high proportion were illegal migrants, makes every single lefty who's called stations like this, not you, people like me and Mike Graham, say, you're racist. No. This is now proven. That, to me, that's the good thing that comes out of this. It's not, it's factual. Baroness Casey was saying people were Tipexing out the word Pakistani.
Yeah, I saw.
I mean, God, man.
I think part of that is, and I don't know if I've said this to you before, those of us on the left have to get a lot better at having uncomfortable conversations. And I think the problem is, because this becomes a political debate, if one side says one thing...
I want a moral debate. I don't want a political debate. I want a moral debate about how I think that is so vile and heinous that's no place in a society I want to live in. That's the debate I want to have.
Totally. And I think whether it's because of bad faith spokespeople on either side, that the other side then goes, well, we can't be seen to be aligning with them, like, even if it may be true, because people feel very uncomfortable about it. And it's sometimes in life things are uncomfortable, and if the truth is uncomfortable, that's the truth. Right?
Do you think it's the death knell for multiculturalism? Do you think the political parties who believe that if you have, in creating a society where everybody's supposed to get on, that this proves that doesn't work once and for all?
I don't think so, because I know Muslim people who are just as disgusted as me and you are.
Right, so here's my question. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? I've heard from people, migrants who have come to this country. I've mentioned 3 people that I know that have come here and worked their backsides off and given so much. They're more appalled than I am. Why no voices from the Muslim community? Why no voices from the British Pakistani community? Haven't heard a word. Surely, if they find it as repugnant as the rest of us, why are they not being vocal about it?
Maybe they are. I don't know if the media goes and speaks to them necessarily. That's the problem. Maybe they won't speak. On the other side, we have it in all religions. If it's a religious thing, look at Justin Welby. Look at the amount that went on under it. And in fact, he left it to
I'm with you.
And so this is the thing. Even if you do hear from him, sometimes they're not repentant. He resigned and then totally went, well, if it is my fault, then sorry, sort of thing. And it's
Catholic Church, just completely with you, mate. That's why it's not purely. That's why all week I've stressed. For me, it's not about the colour of your skin or your religion. This is so heinous to me as a father. I've said it. Ryan keeps looking at me, bless him, not now. I've been saying it for 3 days. I'd be in prison if somebody had done that to my daughter, and Tony Sutton is a wonderful human being. I would be in prison, and I make no apologies for that. I'd be serving life. That's it.
Yeah, it's
that's it.
I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do.
Right, take this from an old man, not being disrespectful. You'll have a kid one day, I'm sure. You'll have a daughter. I know exactly what you do when you hold that daughter in your arms for the first time. And as a society, irrespective of your political persuasion, if we have allowed people to come into this country or allowed people to partake in that whilst excusing it because apparently it's part of a different... whatever, debate, not good enough.
No, and I don't know if it goes potentially deeper, because all these things happened up north.
Yeah.
With the exception of probably Peterborough and Oxford. Didn't happen in London, which is one of the the most diverse places in the country.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, why? Is this because there are certain towns, I don't want to pick on them, but you look at places like Blackburn and Burnley, that have been done in for years economically, and if there was a culture of we can do what we want, we can get away with what we want, because it's a bit like bandit country. And the other thing with this is, which I think Baroness Casey hinted at yesterday in her evidence, this is men. It's always men. And this is not to say it doesn't happen to... women don't also do awful things. I think the number of men that face sort of domestic violence and stuff is in the tens of thousands. It's a serious issue. But this is a male issue. And not to sort of gloss over it,
which makes it even worse, and I've got to go to an ad break, which makes it even worse for me when I was watching Yvette Cooper deliver her speech. Literally, the posturing of the Labour Party, they put all the females on the front row. Did you see it? Yeah, Angela Rayner, that revolting human being who said that this was dog whistle politics, Lucy Powell. Then we've got Phillipson, who dreams of being the Queen, and one other. They looked like they were chewing glass. And Jess Phillips, and I'm sitting there thinking, for your reason, right? They're supposed to be, all of these people, and I would support them, protecting women's rights. And yet it would be absolutely fair to say in the last 2 months on this show, when it comes to the transgender argument, they seem to all back a man with a... I'm being completely honest, right? What about the 15-year-olds that walk into a change room and a man with a penis is changing? And I say that as a father. Oh, no, you're not being respectful to transgender. Where's the Jess Phillips in this world screaming from the rooftops to Keir Starmer in January? You're allowing girls to be raped. You are trading it for votes. Whatever you're doing, we need a national inquiry. You can have your job and shove it up your backside. That's what really, really gets my gut.
But that's where you started the conversation, because Jess Phillips held on to her constituency by about 700 votes and was challenged by someone representing the pro-Gaza fringe of politics, and look at the makeup of her constituency.
So you're telling me she traded, and I'm being completely serious, she sacrificed the right and wrongs of what's happening to girls to keep her seat?
I'm not willing to libel myself. What I would say is, I imagine those conversations would be very uncomfortable in Birmingham.
I love you, Torbitt. You're great. Are you away from the Labour Party? It's a horrible thing for Britain, isn't it?
I find it hard. I get upset about it because I feel like they've taken the party I joined and totally trashed it. This is not the... there's a whole manner of things going on where you think, I didn't come down here full of beans and energy to join a party that was going to put 700,000 people into poverty because of welfare cuts. I didn't come down here to take money off pensioners and let them potentially freeze at winter and to ignore people. I came down here to change things and hopefully, you know, shape society for the better. And it hasn't turned out that way at the minute. I think there's some good stuff done with regards to the workers' rights. Potentially the nationalisation of the railways, but I think you haven't got the stock. Essentially, it's a bit of a short-term fix. I'm not away. I'm a paid-up member of the Labour Party, but as I say to people at the minute, by about the skin of my teeth. That's the problem. I despair, and I've always considered myself an independent person, independent thinker, and I don't know. I don't know what the future looks like.
And you know what's great to finish this week with you is that I've sat here and a bit like you, I always naively thought you can find an answer. There'll be an answer. I woke up on Tuesday morning and I said to my wife, I'm quite embarrassed. Different lady, I was proud to be British. There isn't a racist bone in my body. There isn't. You can ask the people that know me. But if we cannot be honest and truthful about what is going on in this country, and we haven't, if we have no faith, the lead in the Sun with Jack on Tuesday morning was, we've been lied by the state, we've been lied to by the state. If that is true, and this can go as high and as low as you want, from a moral point of view as a dad, I want to say to every police officer, social worker, NHS worker, politician, local council, whatever, but you can sleep at night, can you? You can sleep at night to think that a working class girl, a white working class girl, somebody from a broken home, somebody with a disability, a learning difficulty, whatever, has been plied with drugs and raped, and for whatever reason, you ain't given your all to make sure that people realise that's wrong. Unbelievable.
Do you know what it is though as well? If they were from Kensington and Chelsea, it'd be dealt with. This always comes back to the class of people. You did this stuff for 15 years and dealt with people that were ignored and whatever else. You always feel ignored. All the
critics, I've only got a minute and a half, all the critics of the Jeremy Carr show always had one thing to say to them. Where do you think these people would have gone? The thousands of people I put into detox and rehab, because those people don't watch or listen to television anymore. They disappeared, right? So all the people who went, oh yeah, but you're taking... No. He gave these people a voice. And those girls did not have a voice, and I believe that all politicians of all parties and all people in institutions have failed those girls. And I don't know where we go from here. I hope to God it ain't a whitewash though, mate, because I don't think the people will stomach that, do you?
No, people will be able to tell. But it's sad, I met some survivors on Monday and they said we haven't got any faith. Even with a national inquiry they had no faith because they've been beaten down by essentially establishment that has closed ranks, protected itself, potentially taken part in cover-ups, and looked after one another, and therefore that you feel that when you're on your own as an individual, I know the survivors have got together in places, but there's that sense of powerlessness. This thing is massive compared to you, and you think, how do we ever beat them? Because really they're winning, they're laughing at us, we're left, you know, with all sorts of issues and trauma and whatever else. Disgusting.
Thank you to Dan from Kent. I've sat listening to Tony with tears in my eyes. His interview should be sent to every MP to remind that the people of this country have had enough. Thank you so much indeed, by the way, to all of you this week. Matthew Torbitt, you're a legend. Thank you.